Live from Muskegon, Michigan, this is Tiger Talks Wrestling. Like, comment, subscribe, or
Yes, indeed. For the second time today, I am live, guys. Welcome in to Tiger Talks Wrestling. This is the King of the Yard 2, first round, day 1 recap show. Hey, Gunshot, good to see you in the chat section. Now, if you guys did miss it, I did have Avery Hoke on here a little bit earlier today. It was an interesting podcast. If you didn't get a chance to watch it, go back and watch it at some point in time. And this is a little bit later than when we did the recap show last week. Next week we will go back to our 6 p.m. Eastern time start time for the recap shows. Just this week I wanted to give myself a little bit of time, not knowing how long the podcast would go with Avery Hoke on here. So, with that being said, I did post that there's going to be a couple guys joining in. If they get the chance to, then they will. If not, well, we'll go without them. Either way, be nice to get their opinions on things. If we don't get it, that's fine too. Let's jump into things. If you guys got any predictions or anything you want to put in there about King of the Yard 2, let me know. My night's going well, thank you. How's yours? Now, you might have missed last week's show. I did do the recap for the qualifying show. Qualifying show was pretty good. King of the Yard 2, first round, day 1, was a very good show. And a lot of good matches on there. We'll start off right away with the first match. You're good. That's good to know. After seeing him qualify by defeating Charles Stone in the qualifying round, we would see Adam Anderson go one-on-one with the Dark Side in a very good match. Those two men tore into each other like no other, and that feud, I guess you could say, had been building up for a year or better, probably, on Twitter and other social media platforms. And I would say the match did not disappoint. And it was the first time you see neither one of those two men in the King of the Yard tournament. I think we'll see a lot more of Adam Anderson in NUW, is what I get a feeling of after seeing that match. But he did come up just a little bit short and got defeated by the Dark Side, who moves on to round 2. So, yeah, that was a very good match. And with that, before I go too much into more on that, I got a couple words here from the Dark Side.
I know now why they call this man the Backyard Wrestling Nightmare. Adam goddamn Anderson, you bony-kneed motherfucker. You got my eye. Yeah, you got my fucking eye. But I took home the victory, motherfucker. And I will be moving on in the King of the Yard tournament. Now going forward, it might be a little bit of a struggle because the Dark Side can only see out of one goddamn eye. But the Dark Side, a one-eyed Dark Side, he still stands a chance, goddammit. Never count out a one-eyed Dark Side. Now, that's all that really needs to be said, goddammit. I don't really know what else needs to be said. I came in, I whooped Adam Anderson's ass. You know, he was talking all that shit beforehand, talking all that shit during it. But where you at now, Adam Anderson? Who's talking shit, motherfucker? I am. The Dark Side, even with one eye. Remember this. Remember this moment, Adam Anderson. Remember how you fell straight on the back of your goddamn head, you clumsy bastard. You perverted son of a bitch. You're alright, though. You know, he took the fight to me. I will say that. He took a fight to me. He almost had me at one point. But, as I say again, goddammit, you see this? You see this? It's gonna take a hell of a lot more than that shit to keep the dark side out of this tournament.
Some strong words there from the dark side as he mentions the fact that he took a shot to the eye, has a nice little shiner there, but he was the victor, and we'll move on to the second round of the King of the Yard 2 tournament. Gunshot mentions King of the Yard 2 has been good so far. I am going back on what you're saying. I love the dark side match. It was awesome. I'd agree with that. The next match we would see PJC, somebody who I'm not very familiar with, going against Zach Webb. They had a decent match, in my opinion. It wasn't my favorite match of the show, but it was pretty decent. PJC did walk out the victor. Looking at the way things are lining up, I kind of have a feeling he'll probably be going against the dark side next. I won't swear to it, though, because it hasn't really been shown. But we'll get into previews for that stuff later. But yeah, I was pretty impressed by some of the things PJC did in that match. I'm a little more familiar with Zach Webb because I've seen him over in DBW. I've seen a little bit of his LCW stuff. So I was kind of thinking Zach Webb would have won the match, but PJC got the victory and is moving on, while Zach Webb is, along with Adam Anderson, going home. And then you'd see Zach Cobalt go one-on-one with Brandon Castelli in another pretty good match, in my opinion. Haven't really seen a whole lot of Zach Cobalt myself either, just what he's done in the Slaughterhouse. But Zach had a good showing in this match against Brandon Castelli and took the victory over Brandon Castelli. As PJC and him both from BWE are moving on to the second round of the King of the Yard tournament, 2 tournament. And I will say I was pretty impressed by what Zach Cobalt did against Cameron Jackson in a losing effort at the first round of the first King of the Yard tournament. But I thought he was a little more impressive here against Brandon Castelli. So then we would go from that match into NUW's resident JJ the Pitbull Cordero, who would have a bodyguard with him, Hato, some new guy that apparently will be with him at times moving forward, against another man who we've seen in NUW and Proving Ground a couple times in Owen Devine, a guy who, when I first seen him on Proving Ground, he caught my eye and caught my attention, and I think he's got a big future ahead of him. I know he's also in UWF, and I look forward to seeing more of Owen Devine. These two had a very good match. The finish of it was a little bit shady, as Hato kind of helped JJ get the upper hand and get the victory. Now, what happened after the match was a little bit more interesting. I'll get into that in a second. As Gunshot says, oh yeah, that match too was pretty entertaining. Brandon and Zach Cobalt both did a great job in that match. Agree. So what I was saying, it was interesting because after JJ picked up the win, you'd see Zach Cobalt come out and say, hey, I don't want to wait. I want to do this second round match now. And of course, after a little distraction from Hato, JJ would attack him from behind. The match would actually begin. It was a short match, which Zach Cobalt was able to pull out the victory again with another impressive finishing elbow. As we would see the second round match take place, and see Zach Cobalt is moving on to the third round of the King of the Yard 2 tournament. And I posted this in a comment on the video for the show. I'll say it again here. Zach Cobalt actually impressed me the most. Not by a whole lot, but he did impress me the most out of everybody in this video, in this episode, this part of the King of the Yard tournament. So then from there, we would move on to GBYWN veteran Doc Holliday would go against the boss of the sauce, Mike Perillo. Holliday seemed to have the upper advantage throughout most of this match. But in the end, it came down to Mike Perillo actually picking up the victory. A shocking victory, or an upset, if you will, as some people seem to call it. And it was very good, though. The match was. Mike Perillo is a guy who I think will go quite a ways in this tournament, especially seeing what he had to offer in that match. Gunshot and whoever else is in the chat section, if you got anything else you want to say about any of these matches, I know I'm going through them quick, but feel free to say anything about them. Now, the next match on the show was actually my favorite match of the show, of day one of the first round. It was the Shotgun Kid, Johnny Reed, the Superior Prodigy, going up against Mr. Judgment. And Sauce got the win. Yes, he did. Sauce gets the win. And Mr. Judgment was somebody who I was quite impressed with in the first King of the Yard tournament. I've seen quite a bit of his DBW stuff. I've seen him over in VTW, a little bit in NUW now. And I got to go back. Johnny Johnson, he mentioned it. A lot of people like to bring it up and say it's one of their favorite matches. Him and Yankee had an outstanding match in the first King of the Yard tournament. But I would even say I think this match was even better for him and Johnny Reed. I think they brought out the best in both of each other. And in the end, yes, Mr. Judgment did pick up the victory, but it could have went either way. Johnny Reed had things going his way at times in that match. So I easily could have seen Johnny Reed taking the victory, but it just wasn't quite enough. He wasn't able to pick up that win. Came up just a little bit short and got caught with the Judgment Slam. We'll say I've seen some things out of both men that I don't think I've seen before during that match, though. So, Mr. Judgment, to me, I think is going to go quite a ways in this tournament. I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, to see him make the Final Four this year. So then after that, we go into the final two matches of day one of the first round, where the first match was two guys that I'm not very familiar with either, because I haven't seen a whole lot of UWF New York. I plan on changing that. I just haven't gotten a chance to yet. But you'd see Clark Williams make his Slaughterhouse debut, and he said during the qualifying show that he was going to be in the Slaughterhouse a lot more. So we look forward to seeing more of him. But he had a very good showing against the current WCF World Heavyweight Champion, Damien Fatale, who, of course, beat Carlos Mysterion in a qualifying match to make it into the tournament. And those two guys put on a very good match as well. They'd be up there with the top matches, I would think. Damien Fatale did pick up the victory. He will be moving on. He was one guy who was supposed to be in here. If he gets a chance to, I'll bring him in and see what he has to say about it. Ooh, Gunshot says he wants to see Darkseid versus Mr. Judgment, hopefully to crown the King of the Yard. I don't think the King of the Mountain, Devon McDonald, would agree with that or like that outcome very well, but that's on him. If we get Damien in here, then I'll get his take on that match and his take on the future of King of the Yard 2. Now, okay. Just looking to see if anybody else was there. All right. And then the last match, of course, of day one of the first round was tough to say, but I think I would say out of the top three matches, I would say my favorite match was Judgment versus Reed, then Adam Anderson versus Darkseid, and then this match, the main event, was a very good, it was an awesome match, really. You seen Scorpion the Assassin, the owner of UWF, going up against the current NUW undisputed champion, Shadow Grim, in a dream match for many people. And they went at it neck and neck, toe and toe. They took the fight all over the place, from in the ring, outside the ring, back in. It came down to the finish where either one could have won the match, but Shadow Grim was able to lock in his finisher. The Shadows, sorry, reading through two things. Shadows Curse, and got the tap out from Scorpion, who's got two bad legs, two bad knees. He wasn't able to withstand it. The Dark Side says I'd make Judgment my bitch. That'd be interesting to see. We've seen you guys in a triple threat match, but never one-on-one, I don't believe. Gunshot says, oh yeah, let's talk about that match. That one you're speaking of was an instant classic, Shadow Grim and Scorpion the Assassin. I'd agree. Like I said, I mentioned the three that were my top three matches, not necessarily. That was neck and neck with Adam Anderson and the Dark Side, in my opinion, the main event in that first match. But still, to me, Judgment and Reed was the top match of the show. So, looking at the way things went, I'm kind of thinking, like Zach Cobalt went against JJ Cordero in the second round, so I'm kind of thinking that's what matches we've seen here is what the second round will be. Judgment, that Dark Side can let me know otherwise if I'm wrong, but it looks like right now it'd be the Dark Side versus PJC, Prillo versus Judgment, Patel versus Shadow Grim. If those happen, those are going to be some impressive matches. If not, well, we'll see. I'm sure we'll get the preview for sure next week. Overall, it was a very good show, as I mentioned at the top of this, and I look forward to seeing what day 2 brings. Now, I will go into detail on the matches for day 2, and I will give my predictions as to what I think will happen there. I'm just going to keep going back and forth to check to see if these guys see my message. They haven't yet, so like I said, if we get a chance to, we'll bring them in. If not, we won't. So, out of the couple guys who are watching, I want to get your predictions on these matches as well when I mention them for day 2, just to get a little interaction here. Gunshot and, well, Gunshot anyways. I see him and Darkside look like are the only two watching. The first match that was announced for round 1, day 2 is the S tier, David Lowell, going up against Devin James from several different companies he's in. He's in DBW. He's been in LCW, his home base, I believe. Devin James was pretty impressive to me against Evan Blake and AC Insane Barry in that triple threat match at the qualifying show. I was happy to see he's getting this chance too. Hey, that is correct. So I'm glad to know that. I might give my opinions on that. Gunshot says Jason Page versus Mark Williams would be a dream match. That match has happened a lot of times on the BCW channel if you want to go back and watch it. Yeah, I'll give my predictions on what I think will happen with those tournament matches then, since I was apparently correct on those matches being the second round matches. But as mentioned, David Lowell versus Devin James. I was impressed by Devin James in that triple threat match. Happy to see he's getting this opportunity. And Gunshot actually says Devin James for the win. I enjoy that guy's work. Whereas I say my prediction is David Lowell will go on, the S tier will go on to take the victory in that match. I think David will be the one to pick up the win. And unfortunately, Devin James will just have to live to see another day. The second match is going to be an interesting one. The debuting Nails, as Johnny Johnson mentioned, will be debuting, going up against Dirty DeChico. Man, did he pick a rough first-round opponent for somebody that's making their debut here. I don't know anything about this new guy, so I can't really say much about him, but I've seen almost everything that Dirty DeChico's done in UWE and know how hard-hitting of a guy he is. I got to go Dirty DeChico, picking up this victory and moving on to the second round of the King of the Yard 2 tournament. I just don't see some newcomer getting the better of Dirty DeChico. I mean, stranger things have happened, but just my take. I think Dirty's going to move on. So then we would find out Evan Blake, who qualified for the tournament, will go on to face LCW and DBW star Damon Scar, who is another guy who I'm been pretty impressed with over the last couple years, really. Before I get into that, Gunshot says, yeah, I got to go with the Gunslinger only because I see the new him. He's like the effing Terminator. Well, I don't know that it'll be the diseased version of Dirty DeChico. I think it'll be just regular Dirty DeChico in this tournament. We'll see what happens. But yeah, still, I can't see Dirty getting eliminated by a newcomer. So Evan Blake and Damon Scar, I think, could potentially steal the show on this episode. Just knowing the style that those two bring to a match and things that they can do. This one's tough one to pick, but I think I'm going to go with Damon Scar. Maybe even Demon Scar you might see, but Damon Scar is my pick to move on to the second round of the King of the Yard 2 tournament out of that match. I'll get back to Gunshot's pick once he gets that in there. A little bit of a delay from the chat, it looks like. Nothing against Evan Blake. I think he's an awesome competitor. I think Damon Scar will edge out just barely in what I said could be a show stealer. So then we got the gamer Jim Connors, who will be going one-on-one with Hellhound, Zach Romig. And we've seen Jim Connors recently at Fight for Freedom. I believe that was his first time in the Slaughterhouse. This will be his second. This will be his first time in singles action, I believe, though, in the Slaughterhouse. And we all know Hellhound, Zach Romig, what he's done in the Slaughterhouse. Hellhound at Fight for Freedom came up just short against Yankee for that hardcore championship. I think he's got something to prove in this tournament. He wasn't too happy to be left out of the first King of the Yard tournament. Before I give my prediction on that, Gunshot does say I'm going with Damon Scar. He's badass, but I want to see what he can do in this tournament. There you go. So I think Jim Connors and Hellhound will have a pretty good match. Hellhound, of course, the smaller competitor in this match, as he is in just about every match he has. But I think with the heart of Hellhound and seeing things that he's done, I've seen a little more of his stuff than I have Jim Connors. But I think Jim Connors, in a way, is kind of more of a tag team person with Scorpion. I'm sure he does some single stuff too. But I'm going to go with Hellhound, picking up the win and advancing in this match. Ooh. Just looking at the bracket. Gunshot says he's going with Hellhound for the win as well. So there we go. Hey, we have 3 people watching now. If the other person wants to chime in for any predictions or anything, then feel free. The next match could also be another barn burner. Could be another show stealer, perhaps. As we got Chaz Evans from WCF going one-on-one with the new Joseph Anthony, as I'll call him. This one's tough to pick, in my opinion. I haven't seen a whole lot of Chaz Evans, but what I have seen of him, I've been pretty impressed by what the guy can do. He did an outstanding against Ganja the Clown, but I have a feeling that's just the tip of what he can do. And oof. Tough to pick for this one. But I'm going to go, I think I'm actually going to go with Chaz Evans to pick up the win over Joseph Anthony and advance to the second round of the King of the Yard 2 tournament. Joseph's been on kind of a little bit of a decline lately. He was the one that, I just don't see Joseph Anthony picking up the win and advancing. I could see him being one of a few NUW guys that doesn't get past the first round. One of not many. So yeah, I'm going to go with Chaz Evans. Again, I think this one could be another potential show stealer. It's one to definitely watch closely and could go either way. But I think Chaz Evans is going to pick up the Duke. Then you've got, keep watching to see if Gunshot gives his prediction for that one. You got Victor Van Pelt, the diamond of the industry, the 24-karat man, OG of $1 million, the bank account cleaner, king of dollar style, and of course, your mother's favorite wrestler. Wow. Did I get it all right? Hopefully. But anyway. Mr. Awesome's in, says King of the Yard 2 has been interesting thus far. A couple guys really catching my eye. I'd like to hear who those guys are and maybe get your predictions for the upcoming episode as well, Mr. Awesome. If you're coming in late, I can go through those matches again here in a little bit. But Victor Van Pelt, anyways, is coming in to the first round, day 2, to face El Diablo, a guy who he actually has faced before in the Slaughterhouse and defeated. There's a little bit of history between those two. Gunshot wants to know what my prediction was for the last match because he wasn't paying attention and he got distracted. I said Chaz Evans is who I've got over Joseph Anthony. I think could come down to the wire, but I think Chaz Evans is just going to pick up the victory. Now, as for this one, as mentioned, Victor Van Pelt and El Diablo have a history with each other. El Diablo will kind of be looking for revenge. And he won a lottery to get in this spot, is what Johnny Johnston said in the first round, day 1 video. I don't see El Diablo getting the win here, though. I think Victor Van Pelt's going to get the money shot in there and go on and advance to the second round of the King of the Yard 2 tournament, making his debut in here. Gunshot says Victor Van Pelt for the win. He didn't give a prediction. Oh, and he's got Joseph Anthony to beat Chaz Evans. We'll see. So then you got another match that will be fun to watch. Move on from there to Ustalo. I will say I'm kind of surprised by this, but there's only 2 guys that that are taking part of King of the Yard 2 from UWE, which is a little surprising. I was expecting a couple more at least. But anyway, Ustalo from the Balance of Chaos, the only member of the Balance of Chaos in the King of the Yard 2 tournament, will be going one-on-one with APW veteran, a guy who's apparently made, from what Mr. Judgment has told me, has made DBW his new home, the returning Corey Graves. And he is a legend pretty much in the community, Corey Graves is. Ustalo claimed in the qualifying round that he would not be as easy to eliminate as he was for Dustin Reagan to eliminate him in the first round of King of the Yard 1. Well, it might not be as easy to do, and he might be a little more used to the ring, but I got Corey Graves taking the victory over Ustalo in this first round match. All right, Mr. Awesome says a lot of the wild card names like Chaz Evans and people like that, Zach Cobalt for sure, have his attention. I agree with Zach Cobalt because he caught my attention definitely in that first video. Chaz Evans caught my attention as well in the qualifying round, and like I said, I think he's going to get past this first round as well. Gunshot says the Phoenix Ustalo for the win. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. I just don't think that's going to happen. I think Corey Graves is going to be another guy who could go, well, I'd say could go a long ways, but if looking at the way things are going now and seeing who his opponent perhaps could be in the second round, I'm not so sure about that. Because that brings us to the final match of the first round. As we see, the Blaze, who defeated Tycoon Mikado in a qualifying match, going one-on-one with the man who brings us this entire tournament, the King of the Mountain himself, Nevada McDonald, who's looking to rectify what happened to him in the first King of the Yard tournament and looks to breeze his way past the Blaze, as he thinks he'll be a lot easier of an opponent to dispose of as AK-47 wasn't in the first King of the Yard. I have a feeling that Nevon McDonald might be selling the Blaze a little bit short, but in the end, I've got Nevon McDonald picking up the victory and advancing to the second round of the tournament. Mr. Awesome says Corey Graves has this one. His comeback got to bring more. I agree with that. That's part of why I say I think Corey Graves is getting past Ustala. Hey, we got the super villain himself. Damien Fatal in the chat section says, I'm going to be the king of the yard. That could happen. I mean, you got past Clark Williams in the first round. You draw a very tough opponent in the second round. If you want to come in, I did send a link in a group in a little Twitter chat as well. Check Twitter, you'll see that. Gunshot says I got the King of the Mountain for the win. Yeah. Like I said, he might be counting the Blaze a little bit short. No pun intended to the fact that the Blaze is young and short. But I just don't think it's going to be as easy as Nevon McDonald thinks it's going to be for him to get past that. But I do have Nevon McDonald, in the end, picking up the victory and moving on to round 2. Mr. Awesome says Nevon is strutting his way to round 2. See how his last promo went. Yeah, true. He looks motivated. If he loses, he is going to snap. I agree with that. Damien Fatal says he will win it all. And we shall see. So again, if you guys want to give any other predictions, I'll go through the matches one more time that we have coming up this week on round 1, day 2. You got David Lowell versus Devin James. You got the newcomer Nails going against Dirty DeChico. Evan Blake faces Damon Scar. Jim Connors versus Hellhound Zach Romick. Chaz Evans versus Joseph Anthony. Victor Van Pelt versus El Diablo. I got some history. Ustalo versus Corey Graves. And, of course, the final match, The Blaze versus Nevon McDonald. If there's any other predictions or comments you guys want to mention on any of those matches or anything else going on in this tournament, feel free to put them in that chat section here. Quick. All right. I didn't see what I sent to him on Twitter apparently yet. Get him in here. This show is going to be awesome. We have those matches, those 8 matches rather, excuse me. Top to bottom look like they're going to be fun to watch. Can't pick a sleeper match really out of any of those. I did say I think 2 of them that have the potential of being the show stealers are Evan Blake versus Damon Scar and Joseph Anthony versus Chaz Evans, in my opinion. Ustalo and Corey Graves are going to be it's going to be a hard fought match between the 2 of those, I'm sure as well. Might not be catch as catch can or as fun as some other matches, but I know the Blaze likes to fly around a lot. I think him and Nirvana put on a pretty good showing as well. Mr. Awesome's got David Lowell, Dirty DeChico, Hellhound, Chaz Evans, Victor Van Pelt, Corey Graves, and Nevon McDonald. That's 7 of the 8. Which one did we miss there? Lowell, Dirty. Oh, you missed Evan Blake versus Damon Scar. So, I haven't done it yet. Haven't said yet. But I do know I did do this for the first one. I was right all the way through to the end. Damon Scar for sure. Mr. Awesome said, yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking too. Looking at the brackets, looking at the way things are folding out, oof, I think the Dark Side will go against Mr. Judgment. However, I think that'll be not the finals. I think looking at how brackets are going, that'll probably be a semifinals match. And then, damn, that's tough. So I think we got Judgment, Dark Side. I'd like to see Judgment, Dark Side, Devon McDonald, and oof, it's tough to pick a final person. I'm going to go Dirty DeChico. I'd like to see those four in the final four. We'll see what happens, but I think that'd be a great final four. If anybody else wants to give their predictions on who they think is going to go to the final four, 2, and or 1, feel free. It's going to be a fun tournament, though, either way. And I'll update, of course, if I'm wrong on any of those matches. That'll be a good thing, but keep you updated on my predictions. Part of the reason I say that's going to be tough is looking at if these brackets go like the way that the matches are going, the winner of Ustula versus Corey Graves is going to go against the winner of the Blaze versus Nevada McDonald in the second round. And that'd be tough to see Corey Graves get eliminated by Nevada McDonald in the second round. It could happen. Gunshot says, I actually would like to see the Phoenix win the King of the Yard. Ooh, he's got Ustula, so Ustula, you got a fan. Mr. Awesome says, damn it, Tony, that was who I was thinking. Hey, you know, great minds think alike, Mr. Awesome. You'd have 2 guys from NUW, a guy from UWE, and a guy from DBW in the Final Four. I'd be fine with that. But then comes the tough part, because I can't pick a Final 2 or a winner, really. We've seen Nevon McDonald versus both the Dark Side and Mr. Judgment before. I'd kind of like to see Dirty DeChico actually make it to the finals. And then that's tough. He's never faced either one of the 2 men, Judgment or Dark Side, I don't think. I think I want to see Dirty DeChico and Mr. Judgment in the finals. Maybe see Dirty DeChico take the whole thing. But who knows? We'll see what happens. Originally, I was going with Nevon to win the whole thing, but that could happen too. I think Dirty and Judgment would be a fun finals, though. Could be a lot of fun. I still haven't checked those. It's okay. Now, what I'd like to do is see if we can't get some of those 16 guys that are going to be on this show this upcoming Thursday night at, correct me if I'm wrong, Darkside, if you're still in the chat section, 7 p.m. Eastern time, I believe, is what time you've been live streaming. Mr. Awesome says that would be a brawler-style finals. Yes, it would be. That's part of why I think that's why I'm picking Judgment and Dirty. All right. Now, what I was saying was I'd like to get any of those 16 guys or even the other 7 guys who are advancing. If anybody's got free time next Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern time, want to come in and talk about their journey so far, and well, even guys that have been eliminated, want to talk about their journey so far, or just talk about how they think the rest of the tournament will go, feel free to let me know, and we can bring you on here, and we can talk King of the Yard. Gunshot says, or the Phoenix versus Mr. Judgment, that would be good. It could be interesting. 7 p.m. Yep, that's what I thought. 7 p.m. Eastern time, Thursday night, live stream of King of the Yard 2, round 1, day 2. Unfortunately for me, I won't be in the live stream yet again. But hey, I'll be watching at some point afterwards. So yes, that's this upcoming Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern time on the NUW channel, the King of the Yard 2. First round, day 2, 8 spectacular matches. Hey, you never know. We could see 9 matches again. Could see a second round match take place there. We've seen it this past week. Wasn't expecting it. I guess for NUW wise, you could always say same thing that WWE likes to say: expect the unexpected when it comes to the King of the Yard tournament. Could be some surprises. Who knows what's going to happen, and who knows if those picks will come through or not. But that being said, you got my predictions now. I gave you my final 4, my final 2, and who I think who I'd like to see win the tournament. Doesn't mean that they're going to, but heard it here first. So, after you tune in to King of the Yard 2, first round, day 2 show, Thursday night, 7 p.m. Eastern Time on the NEW channel, make sure you come over here to Tiger Talks Wrestling next Monday night, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. I'll be back here with my recap of the first round, day 2, and my preview for the second round. We will catch you guys next Monday night. Thanks for tuning in.